Welcome to Tales of the Grimdark, where we explore the rich and terrifying lore of Warhammer 40,000. Today we embark on a journey into the heart of the galaxy's most fearsome Xenos species, the Tyranids. In this episode, we will delve deep into the history, tactics, biology, and sheer horror that is the Tyranid race. Known to some as the Great Devourer, these creatures are the embodiment of hunger, wiping out entire star systems and leaving behind nothing but barren rock in their wake. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is no peace among the stars. Endless war rages across the galaxy as the Imperium of Man struggles to maintain its fragile grasp on survival. But of all the countless threats that seek to destroy the Imperium, few strike fear into the hearts of men quite like the Tyranids. They are not conquerors or raiders. They do not seek dominion or to impose their will upon the stars. No, the Tyranids are something far more terrifying. They are a force of nature, an unstoppable biological tide, driven by one simple, all-encompassing desire: to consume. But what exactly are the Tyranids? Where do they come from? How do they operate? And most importantly, what chance does the galaxy stand against a force that evolves with every encounter, growing stronger with each battle fought? Let's dive in. Chapter 1, an introduction to the Tyranid race. The Tyranids are unlike any other Xenos species encountered by the Imperium. Where the Orcs crave battle, the Necrons seek the restoration of their ancient empire, and the Elder struggle for survival, the Tyranids have no such motivations. They have no empire to expand, no territory to claim, no political ambitions. The Tyranids exist for one reason and one reason only: to feed. The sheer scale of the Tyranid threat cannot be overstated. Their hive fleets span entire sectors of the galaxy, and with each invasion they consume everything in their path: organic matter, technological relics, and even the very biosphere of planets are absorbed and repurposed to fuel the swarm. The Tyranids' invasion is a systematic destruction of ecosystems, a stripping of planets down to the last molecule of usable biomass. While other factions of the galaxy can be reasoned with or fought back, the Tyranids are different. They cannot be bargained with. They do not fear death or loss. They are a gestalt organism, controlled by the all-encompassing hive mind, a vast and malevolent intelligence that coordinates the movements and actions of the swarm. The individual Tyranid creatures are little more than extensions of this consciousness, pawns in a much larger game of galactic predation. Perhaps the most unsettling fact about the Tyranids is that they are not native to the Milky Way galaxy. They come from beyond the galactic rim, their exact origin shrouded in mystery. Some believe they hail from a distant galaxy that they have already stripped of all life, having moved on to new hunting grounds in search of more biomass to consume. Others speculate that the Tyranids may be the harbingers of an even greater threat, a precursor to something even more terrifying that lies in the void beyond. Whatever their true origin, the first sighting of the Tyranids in the galaxy occurred during the invasion of Hive Fleet Behemoth. This marked the beginning of an era of unprecedented destruction as the Tyranids unleashed their fury upon the Imperium. At first, the Imperium was slow to respond, unable to comprehend the scale and nature of the threat. But as more and more planets fell to the swarm, it became clear that the galaxy was facing a threat unlike anything it had encountered before. The Tyranids do not invade worlds like other enemies. Their invasions are not raids or sieges, they are harvesting operations. When a hive fleet descends upon a system, it does so with the intention of stripping it bare. This process begins with scouting organisms, bioforms designed to infiltrate and assess a planet's defenses. These scouts, often disguised as harmless creatures, gather information and begin to weaken the planet's infrastructure. Once the swarm is ready, the full might of the Tyranid invasion is unleashed. Planetary defenses are overwhelmed by sheer numbers as billions of Tyranid creatures pour from the skies. These creatures come in all shapes and sizes, each bioform engineered for a specific role in the invasion. From the swarming gaunts to the towering bio-titans, every Tyranid is perfectly suited for its role, whether it be direct combat, aerial assault, or planetary consumption. In the aftermath of a Tyranid invasion, nothing remains. The planet's atmosphere is siphoned off, its oceans boiled away, and its continents ground into dust. The Tyranids leave behind a barren, lifeless husk, a monument to their hunger. One of the most dangerous aspects of the Tyranids is their ability to adapt. The hive mind is constantly analyzing and evolving in response to new threats. When the Tyranids encounter a new foe, they adapt their bioforms to counter that enemy's tactics. If a particular strategy is effective against them, the next wave of Tyranids will have developed a countermeasure. This evolutionary process occurs in real time, making the Tyranids one of the most adaptable and resilient enemies in the galaxy. Each organism the Tyranids devour is broken down, analyzed and used to improve the swarm. Genetic material is absorbed and repurposed, giving the Tyranids access to new abilities and strengths. This process is not limited to biological traits. Tyranid organisms can also assimilate technological knowledge, using it to create new bioweapons or defenses. The Tyranids are, in a very real sense, the perfect predator, able to adapt and evolve with every encounter. The Imperium of Man, alongside other factions like the Eldar, the Necrons, and the Tau, have all found themselves facing the Tyranid threat. Despite the best efforts of these factions, the Tyranids continue to grow in strength. Every battle fought against them results in the swarm learning, evolving, and returning stronger than before. While the Imperium has developed strategies to combat the Tyranids, such as the use of specialized weapons and tactics designed to exploit their weaknesses, these efforts often feel like temporary solutions to an unstoppable problem. The Tyranids are relentless, and no matter how many are destroyed, more will always follow. For every hive fleet defeated, another will soon emerge from the darkness, bringing with it new horrors and new forms of destruction. In the face of such overwhelming power, the question remains: can the galaxy truly hope to survive the Tyranid menace, or is it only a matter of time before the great Devourer consumes all? Chapter 2. Origins and the First Invasions. The galaxy is no stranger to Xenos invasions, but none were as terrifyingly unexpected and devastating as the arrival of Hive Fleet Behemoth. Before Behemoth, the Imperium of Man, with its vast history of encounters with alien species, had no record of anything like the Tyranids. There were legends, whispers of creatures from beyond the galaxy's edge, but nothing concrete. These were dismissed as myths or exaggerations. But when Hive Fleet Behemoth first emerged from the intergalactic void, it marked the beginning of a new era, a time of relentless, insatiable predation. Hive Fleet Behemoth's emergence was sudden and catastrophic. The imperial world of Tyran, from which the species takes its name, was the first to feel the full wrath of this new threat. Tyran was a world at peace, a thriving agri-world providing vital resources to the nearby sectors. But within days, the skies above Tyran were blotted out by the living ships of Behemoth, their bloated forms descending from the stars. These bioships were a terrifying sight, pulsating with life and spilling out millions of Tyranid organisms. The initial invasion overwhelmed the planet's defenses in a matter of hours. The skies darkened as spores rained down from the bioships, each spore carrying a deadly payload. From these pods emerged the first waves of the Tyranid swarm, termagants, hormagaunts, and other smaller Tyranid organisms designed for swift assault. The defenders of Tyran were caught completely off guard. Their weapons, designed for more conventional Xenos threats, proved ineffective against the sheer numbers and resilience of the Tyranid bioforms. As the Tyranids spread across the planet, consuming everything in their path, a desperate plea for help was sent to the Imperium. But by the time reinforcements arrived, it was too late. Tyran had been reduced to a lifeless husk, its once fertile lands now barren and stripped of all biomass. This was the Tyranids' modus operandi, to devour every living thing, reducing worlds to nothing more than dead rocks floating in space. Tyran was just the beginning. Hive Fleet Behemoth continued its relentless advance, sweeping through entire systems. Planets fell one after another, their populations either consumed or fleeing in terror. The Imperium, slow to respond at first, struggled to comprehend the scale of the threat. It was only when Behemoth set its sights on Macragge, home of the Ultramarines, that the Imperium truly understood the magnitude of the danger. The battle for Macragge is one of the most iconic and defining moments in the history of the Tyranid invasions. Macragge was a world of towering fortresses, a symbol of the might of the Ultramarines chapter of Space Marines. Under the leadership of Marneus Calga, the Ultramarines were among the most disciplined and battle-hardened forces in the Imperium. Yet even they were unprepared for the scale of the Tyranid onslaught. As Hive Fleet Behemoth closed in on Macragge, the Ultramarines mobilized their forces. The defense of Macragge was one of desperation. The Hive Fleet unleashed wave after wave of Tyranid organisms, each adapted for a specific purpose. The skies above Macragge teemed with winged creatures, while the ground was overrun by hordes of gaunts, warriors, and monstrous creatures designed to crush anything in their path. The Ultramarines fought valiantly, with the planet's defenses holding out longer than any other world previously attacked by the Tyranids. However, even with their superior training and discipline, they could not stem the tide of the Tyranid swarm forever. The battle was fought on multiple fronts, from the polar fortresses of Macragge to the void battles in orbit. It was a brutal, drawn-out conflict that tested the limits of human endurance. In the end, it was not the strength of arms that saved Macragge, but sacrifice. The Ultramarines' polar fortresses, where the majority of their forces were stationed, were ultimately overwhelmed by the Tyranids. Hundreds of Ultramarines, including veterans who had served for centuries, perished defending their homeworld. Yet, their sacrifice bought enough time for the Ultramarines' fleet to regroup and launch a counterattack in space. In a desperate gambit, the Ultramarines' ships rammed into the Tyranid bioships, detonating their reactors and tearing apart the Hive fleet from within. The cost of victory was staggering. Macragge had been devastated, and the Ultramarines' losses were catastrophic. Yet, Hive Fleet Behemoth was stopped, its advance shattered. For the first time, the Imperium had successfully repelled a Tyranid invasion, but the cost of that victory would haunt them for years to come. One of the most terrifying aspects of the Tyranid invasion was the phenomenon known as the shadow in the warp. This psychic disruption was unlike anything the Imperium had ever encountered. As Hive fleets approached a system, they projected a massive psychic field that blotted out all communication, cutting off planets from the rest of the galaxy. It was as if the very fabric of reality bent under the weight of the Tyranid presence. The shadow in the warp rendered astropathic communication impossible. Messages sent through the warp, the Imperium's only means of long-distance communication, were drowned out by the overwhelming psychic presence of the Tyranid hive mind. Planets under attack were left isolated, unable to call for reinforcements or warn neighboring systems. This isolation bred terror. Entire worlds would fall silent, their fates unknown until it was too late. Worse still, the shadow in the warp had a profound psychological effect on those within its reach. Imperial citizens and soldiers alike reported feelings of intense dread, paranoia, and hopelessness as the Hive fleet drew near. The presence of the Tyranids exerted a crushing pressure on the minds of those who resisted, breaking their will before the first bioform even touched the ground. This psychic assault was as much a part of the Tyranid invasion as their physical onslaught. For psychers, those individuals within the Imperium who could manipulate the warp, the effects of the shadow were even more devastating. Many went mad, or were driven to suicide by the sheer weight of the hive mind's presence. Others became conduits for demonic possession as their minds broke under the strain. In some cases, entire Imperial armies fell into disarray as their leadership, often made up of psychers, crumbled under the pressure of the Tyranid advance. The shadow in the warp was not just a tactical advantage for the Tyranids. It was a weapon of terror, designed to crush the morale of their enemies before the first shot was even fired. For many Imperial worlds, the knowledge that they were cut off, alone, and defenseless in the face of the Tyranid swarm was enough to break their spirit, leading to mass desertions and chaos long before the swarm made planetfall. After the destruction of Hive Fleet Behemoth, the Imperium hoped that the Tyranid threat had been dealt with, at least for the time being, but this was only the beginning. The Tyranids, far from being a single unified force, were composed of multiple Hive fleets, each with its own strategies and goals. While Behemoth had been shattered, other Hive fleets were already moving into position. Hive Fleet Kraken was the next major incursion. Unlike Behemoth, which relied on overwhelming force, Kraken employed a far more insidious strategy. Kraken's forces split into multiple smaller fleets, each one targeting a different system. This divide-and-conquer tactic stretched the Imperium's forces thin, making it impossible for them to mount a coordinated defense. The most notable victim of Kraken's advance was the Eldar craft world Iyanden. Once one of the largest and most powerful craft worlds, Iyanden was nearly wiped out by the Tyranid invasion. The Eldar, despite their psychic prowess and advanced technology, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer number of Tyranid organisms. The losses were staggering, and though Iyanden ultimately survived, it was left crippled, a shadow of its former glory. Hive Fleet Krakens spread through the galaxy, signaled the beginning of a new phase in the Tyranid invasion. No longer were they simply a brute force hammering at the gates of the Imperium. Now they had adapted, learned from their encounters with the Ultramarines and other defenders of the galaxy. Kraken's ability to split into smaller, more agile fleets made it far more difficult to contain, and entire sectors were consumed before the Imperium could mount an effective response. In the aftermath of Kraken, yet another Hive fleet emerged, Leviathan. This fleet, larger and more deadly than both Behemoth and Kraken combined, would soon strike from an unexpected direction, driving deep into the heart of the galaxy from below. But that is a story for another chapter. For now, the galaxy was learning a grim lesson. No matter how many Tyranid fleets were defeated, more would always come. The hunger of the great Devourer was endless, and as the Imperium would soon discover, the Tyranids were far from finished with their assault on the galaxy. Chapter 3. The Tyranid Life Cycle and Biology. At the heart of the Tyranid race lies a singular, terrifying concept, the hive mind. This vast psychic entity serves as the central command for the entire Tyranid species, controlling billions of organisms across countless hive fleets. Unlike any other race in the galaxy, the Tyranids function not as individuals, but as a collective, with their entire existence oriented around the hive mind's insatiable hunger and relentless directives. The hive mind exists outside of conventional physical boundaries. It is a living intelligence, sprawling across vast distances, transcending individual thought. Every Tyranid organism, no matter how small, is connected to the hive mind, sharing information and experiences instantaneously. This means that when one Tyranid learns, they all learn. When one suffers, they all feel that suffering. In this way, the Tyranids become a unified organism, a single consciousness with a singular purpose, to consume and evolve. Philosophically, the hive mind raises profound questions about individuality, emotion, and purpose. In a universe filled with races that prize free will and personal ambition, the Tyranids represent the antithesis. They are devoid of personal ambition, seeking only to feed and evolve in service to the hive mind. This lack of individuality grants them incredible resilience. They do not fear death, for they are not individuals but parts of a greater whole. The implications of the hive mind extend beyond mere biology. They delve into the realm of existential dread. To face the Tyranids is to confront a force that sees everything as a resource to be consumed. The hive mind's thoughts are alien and unrecognizable, an echoing hunger that drowns out all other considerations. To the defenders of the Imperium, this creates an unbearable sense of futility. No matter how many Tyranids fall in battle, the hive mind remains, always adapting, always consuming, always sending more to replace the lost. Moreover, the hive mind has the ability to direct its forces with terrifying efficiency. As Tyranid organisms encounter new foes, the hive mind absorbs their genetic material and experiences, evolving its strategy and tactics in real time. This leads to a terrifying adaptability, allowing them to counter new technologies and methods of warfare with horrifying speed. The centralization of thought within the hive mind also means that Tyranids do not suffer from disunity or internal strife. They act with singular purpose, unlike many factions within the Imperium, which can be plagued by infighting and political machinations. This makes the Tyranids a relentless, coherent threat, a tide of bioengineered death that cannot be reasoned with or deterred. Understanding the Tyranid life cycle begins with recognizing their diverse anatomy and the specific roles each organism plays within the swarm. Tyranids are not a single species, but rather a collection of bioengineered life forms, each designed for specific tasks that contribute to the hive fleet's overall strategy. At the most basic level, Tyranid organisms can be divided into two categories: the lesser organisms and the greater organisms. The lesser organisms, such as termagants and hormagaunts, serve as the primary infantry of the Tyranid forces. These small, agile creatures are designed for rapid assault and overwhelming numbers. They are typically equipped with basic weapons and biological adaptations that enhance their speed and lethality. Termagants, for instance, are equipped with a variety of ranged bioweapons, often spitting venom or acid that can corrode armor and flesh alike. They are the first wave of an invasion, sent in droves to overwhelm enemy defenses and sow chaos. On the other hand, hormagaunts are designed for close-quarters combat. Their sharp claws and heightened agility allow them to quickly close the gap between them and their prey. They are ferocious fighters, relying on sheer numbers and speed to dominate the battlefield. As we move up the hierarchy, we find the warriors and synapse creatures. Tyranid warriors act as leaders within the swarm, coordinating the lesser organisms and providing the hive mind with critical battlefield intelligence. They are larger and more resilient than their smaller kin, equipped with a variety of weapons and bioarmor that allows them to withstand enemy fire. The greater organisms, including hive tyrants and biotitans, represent the pinnacle of Tyranid evolution. These colossal creatures embody the terrifying might of the hive mind. Hive tyrants serve as the commanding presence on the battlefield, directing their lesser brethren with ruthless efficiency. With powerful weaponry and psychic abilities, they are feared by all who encounter them. Biotitans, like the Hierophant or Tyrannofex, are towering monstrosities that can obliterate entire units with a single strike. They serve as living artillery, providing heavy fire support for the advancing swarm. Additionally, Tyranid organisms are designed to be adaptable. When faced with a specific threat, they can absorb genetic material from their foes and evolve. This ability to incorporate the best traits from their enemies into their own biology is one of the Tyranids' greatest strengths. For example, upon encountering an advanced technological race, they might develop enhanced armor plating or more sophisticated weaponry to counter that threat effectively. The Tyranids' evolutionary prowess is a double-edged sword, granting them an edge in adaptability while also revealing their innate hunger for genetic material. This hunger is not merely for sustenance, but for the very essence of life itself. When the Tyranids invade a planet, they do not just consume, they meticulously study their prey. As the Tyranids devour the biosphere of a planet, they also extract genetic material from every living creature, absorbing traits that they find useful. This allows them to develop new biomorphs tailored specifically for the challenges they face. For instance, when battling orcs, the Tyranids may develop thicker exoskeletons to withstand the brute strength of their opponents, or learn to mimic their ferocious battle cries to intimidate and confuse. One notable example of Tyranid adaptation is the Tyranid genestealer, a creature that specializes in infiltrating enemy lines. Genestealers are capable of infiltrating other species' societies, sowing the seeds of Tyranid invasions from within. They can implant their genetic material into other beings, creating hybrid offspring that are often fanatically loyal to the hive mind. This hybridization can give rise to genestealer cults, secretive organizations that prepare the way for a full Tyranid invasion by weakening the target world from within. This ability to adapt quickly and incorporate the strengths of their enemies makes the Tyranids a unique and terrifying adversary. They do not merely attack with brute force, they study and learn, becoming increasingly deadly with each encounter. The more they fight, the stronger they become. The Tyranids are not just mindless consumers, they are relentless learners, demonstrating an intelligence that belies their monstrous forms. As they continue to evolve and adapt, the Imperium faces a foe that is not only numerous, but one that grows stronger with every battle, leading to a future where entire worlds may fall prey to the Tyranids' endless hunger. Chapter 4. Tyranid hive fleets and their invasions. The Tyranids are not a singular entity, but rather a collection of hive fleets, each a massive biomechanical armada that travels through the void of space. These fleets are composed of a vast array of Tyranid organisms, each designed for specific tasks, and they operate with chilling efficiency under the control of the hive mind. As these fleets traverse the galaxy, they leave nothing but devastation in their wake. Hive Fleet Behemoth was the first of the great hive fleets to invade the galaxy. Arriving in the late 41st millennium, it caught the Imperium off guard, unprepared for the scale and ferocity of the Tyranid onslaught. The fleet was immense, containing billions of Tyranid organisms, and it quickly targeted high-value worlds for consumption. The battle for Macragge marked one of the first significant confrontations between the Tyranids and the Imperium, resulting in catastrophic losses for the Ultramarines and highlighting the deadly efficiency of the Tyranid swarm. Following Behemoth, Hive Fleet Kraken emerged, showcasing the Tyranids' ability to adapt their strategies based on previous encounters. Kraken operated with a divide-and-conquer mentality, splitting its forces to simultaneously attack multiple Imperial worlds. This strategy caught the Imperium off guard as it struggled to respond to simultaneous assaults on multiple fronts. Kraken's adaptability was showcased during its attacks on the Eldar craft worlds, where it inflicted devastating losses, consuming entire populations in its wake. Hive Fleet Leviathan represents one of the most significant incursions in Tyranid history. Arriving from below, Leviathan utilized stealth and surprise, emerging from the depths of the void to strike at unsuspecting worlds. Its multi-pronged invasion strategy allowed it to bypass fortified Imperial defenses and inflict staggering damage across the galaxy. Leviathan's arrival was heralded by the shadow in the warp, a psychic phenomenon that crippled communication and instilled terror in the hearts of those who sensed its approach. Beyond these major fleets, numerous smaller hive fleets and splinter fleets roam the galaxy. These offshoots, often created from the genetic material of their larger counterparts, continue the Tyranid mission of consumption and evolution. Each hive fleet exhibits unique characteristics, influenced by the genetic material they have absorbed during their travels. As they invade, they bring new strategies and forms to the battlefield, making the Tyranid threat both diverse and unpredictable. Throughout the history of the Warhammer 40k universe, the Tyranids have left an indelible mark on the galaxy through their devastating invasions. Some of the most significant battles against the Tyranids serve as grim reminders of their insatiable hunger. The defense of Macragge stands as one of the most notable engagements. As Hive Fleet Behemoth descended upon the Ultramarines' homeworld, the defenders faced an overwhelming tide of Tyranid warriors. The battle showcased the brutal efficiency of the Tyranids as they tore through Imperial defenses with ease. Despite the valiant efforts of the Ultramarines, the sheer scale of the swarm proved too much. The battle ended with the Ultramarines making a desperate stand, ultimately sacrificing themselves to prevent the Tyranids from advancing further into the galaxy. The elder craft world, Iyanden, faced a similar fate during the onslaught of Hive Fleet Kraken. Once a thriving elder stronghold, Iyanden fell victim to the relentless waves of Tyranid organisms. The Eldar fought valiantly, utilizing their advanced technology and psychic abilities, but they were ultimately overwhelmed. The loss of Iyanden not only represented a significant military defeat, but also a devastating blow to the Eldar's psyche. The psychic scars left by the Tyranids' invasion would haunt the Eldar for generations. The siege of Baal, a pivotal moment in the history of the Blood Angels, showcased the Tyranids' terrifying adaptability. Hive Fleet Leviathan launched a calculated assault on the Blood Angels' home system, testing the limits of their resilience. The Blood Angels, renowned for their combat prowess, were pushed to the brink as they fought to defend their world. The siege saw the emergence of new Tyranid bioforms, specifically designed to counter the Blood Angels' tactics, forcing the defenders to adapt on the fly. Beyond these key battles, the Tyranids have clashed with a myriad of factions throughout the galaxy. The Adeptus Mechanicus have faced Tyranid incursions in their forge worlds, witnessing their technological wonders turned against them. Orc warbands have found themselves embroiled in a bloody conflict with the Tyranids during the War of Octarius, where both factions sought to dominate the battlefield. The Necrons, ancient and formidable, have also faced the Tyranid threat, leading to epic confrontations that shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The Tyranid approach to warfare is characterized by its relentless and overwhelming strategies. At the outset of an invasion, the Tyranids send forth scouting organisms to assess enemy defenses. These initial skirmishes allow the hive mind to gather critical intelligence about the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. Once the Tyranids have gathered sufficient data, the main body of the swarm is unleashed. Termagants and Hormagaunts form the vanguard, swarming enemy positions to sow chaos and disrupt defensive formations. Their sheer numbers can quickly overwhelm even the most fortified positions, as they inundate the battlefield with waves of biological horror. As the battle progresses, larger organisms like warriors and hive tyrants enter the fray, providing leadership and coordination to the swarm. These synapse creatures ensure that the lesser organisms act cohesively, moving in formation to exploit weaknesses and crush resistance. Their presence on the battlefield is a signal to the lesser Tyranids. They fight harder, knowing they are connected to a greater purpose. One of the most chilling aspects of the Tyranid strategy is their ability to adapt in real time. As they encounter different factions, the hive mind absorbs genetic material and incorporates it into its strategy. This might involve developing new biomorphs, such as enhanced armor or specialized weapons designed to counter a specific enemy. For example, during their battles against the Astra Militarum, the Tyranids learned to exploit the weaknesses of Imperial Guard formations. They began employing Tyrannofexes, massive bioengineered monstrosities capable of laying down devastating fire, directly targeting armored vehicles and infantry formations. This adaptability can also be seen in their approach to psychic warfare, with the Tyranids utilizing organisms capable of projecting psychic attacks to disrupt enemy forces. The culmination of their tactics often leads to the horrifying spectacle of planet-wide consumption. Once the Tyranids have decimated an enemy's defenses, they initiate the final phase of their invasion, the complete and utter consumption of the planet's biosphere. This involves the transformation of the ecosystem into a breeding ground for new Tyranid organisms, where everything from plants to fauna is converted into fresh Tyranid biomass. In the wake of their invasions, the remnants of the planet are left barren and desolate, devoid of life. The Tyranids move on, leaving behind only silence, a testament to their insatiable hunger and relentless nature. As they advance further into the galaxy, the Tyranid threat continues to grow, leading to new horrors as they adapt, evolve, and consume. Chapter 5: Tyranids and the Imperium. The emergence of the Tyranid threat sent shockwaves through the Imperium of Man. Initially, the response to this unprecedented Xenos incursion was one of confusion and disbelief. The sheer scale and ferocity of the Tyranids were unlike anything the Imperium had faced before. Their relentless swarms, driven by a single hive mind, posed a challenge that overwhelmed Imperial forces on every front. At first, many within the Imperium underestimated the Tyranids, viewing them as a simple, albeit terrifying, Xenos race. However, as Hive Fleet Behemoth descended upon Macragge, the reality of the Tyranid threat became horrifyingly clear. The Ultramarines, one of the most elite Space Marine chapters, found themselves overwhelmed by the relentless assault. The lack of understanding of the Tyranids' biology and tactics left the Imperium scrambling for effective countermeasures. In the wake of this disaster, the Astra Militarum began to develop specialized tactics to combat the Tyranids. Regiments across the galaxy were instructed to focus on massed firepower, utilizing heavy weaponry to combat the swarms. The concept of hold and kill emerged, emphasizing the importance of fortified positions and disciplined firing lines. This was a drastic change from the more mobile and flexible tactics commonly employed by the Imperial Guard. As the Tyranid threat escalated, the Imperium began to recognize the need for coordination between its various military branches. The Space Marines, Astra Militarum, and the Adeptus Mechanicus found themselves working together to develop more effective strategies against the Tyranid swarm. This newfound collaboration was essential in the early stages of the Tyranid incursions, as the Imperium quickly learned that divided forces would fall easily to the relentless onslaught. The Ordo Xenos, a branch of the Inquisition tasked with investigating alien threats, became deeply involved in the study of the Tyranids. They sent agents to observe and report on Tyranid behavior, seeking to understand the hive mind's motivations and weaknesses. Despite their efforts, the Ordo Xenos faced a grim realization. The Tyranids were an unstoppable force, driven by a singular purpose: consumption. The Ultramarines, renowned for their discipline and effectiveness, found themselves at the forefront of the battle against the Tyranids. Following the catastrophic events of the Battle for Macragge, the chapter regrouped and adapted their tactics to counter this existential threat. Roboute Guilliman's return from the long slumber of the Primarchs brought new strategies and hope to the Imperium. The Ultramarines were determined to defend the Imperium from the relentless Tyranid swarm. Their subsequent campaigns showcased their resilience and adaptability in the face of overwhelming odds. One of the most notable operations was the strike against Hive Fleet Kraken, where they implemented a strategy of attrition, drawing the Tyranids into ambushes and fortified positions. This tactical shift allowed the Ultramarines to inflict significant casualties on the invading swarm. As the conflict progressed, the Ultramarines began to utilize specialized units trained explicitly for Tyranid warfare. Tyranid hunters, a designation given to elite squads, were formed to combat specific Tyranid bioforms. These squads utilized a combination of heavy weaponry and advanced tactics to dismantle the Tyranid forces. The emergence of the Primaris Space Marines, with their enhanced capabilities and superior weaponry, further bolstered the Ultramarines' fighting capacity. The nature of the Tyranid threat also forced the Ultramarines to adapt their recruitment processes. The chapter began to prioritize candidates with exceptional mental resilience, recognizing that the psychological impact of facing the Tyranid swarm was as crucial as physical prowess. The training of new recruits shifted towards combating overwhelming odds and developing a mentality suited for the realities of the Tyranid onslaught. The Inquisition, particularly the Ordo Xenos, became increasingly concerned about the Tyranid threat as hive fleets continued to ravage worlds. Their investigations into the nature of the Tyranids revealed the unsettling truth. The hive mind operated on a level of intelligence that surpassed simple instinct. The Inquisition recognized that understanding the Tyranids was crucial not only for military strategy, but for the survival of the Imperium itself. The Ordo Xenos initiated several high-priority missions aimed at capturing Tyranid organisms for study. These efforts yielded limited success, as the nature of the Tyranid swarm made containment difficult. Many inquisitors became obsessed with understanding the hive mind, believing that knowledge of its weaknesses could lead to a means of defeating the Tyranids. However, such ambitions often led to tragic outcomes, as those who ventured too close to the Tyranid threat found themselves consumed by their own curiosity. In addition to their military strategies, the Inquisition began to formulate doctrines regarding the acceptance of Tyranid encounters. The idea of exterminatus, the complete annihilation of a planet to prevent Tyranid infestation, became a stark reality. Worlds that fell to the Tyranids were often marked for destruction, as the Imperium could not afford to allow the hive mind to gain a foothold in any sector. The inquisitorial war against the Tyranids highlighted the lengths to which the Imperium would go to safeguard itself from this existential threat. Although some within the Inquisition proposed aggressive preemptive strikes against known Tyranid incursions, such tactics were often mired in controversy. Ultimately, the Inquisition's grim outlook was one of inevitability. The Tyranids would continue to consume, and the Imperium's struggle against them was a matter of survival. As the war against the Tyranids progressed, the Imperium recognized the need for a coordinated, multifaceted response. In the wake of horrific defeats, military leaders gathered to discuss new strategies and tactics to counter the relentless swarm. Specialized training programs were established, aimed at preparing soldiers for the unique challenges posed by Tyranid warfare. One of the most significant developments was the implementation of Tyranid analysis programs across various imperial organizations. These programs focused on studying the behavior and tactics of Tyranid organisms, creating detailed databases on their capabilities. The Astra Militarum, Space Marines, and even the Adeptus Mechanicus collaborated in developing weapons and tactics specifically tailored to exploit Tyranid weaknesses. The introduction of bioweapons, munitions designed to target the Tyranids' biological composition, represented a significant evolution in the Imperium's arsenal. These weapons included specialized explosives that released toxins capable of disrupting Tyranid physiology, allowing defenders to weaken the swarm before engaging in direct combat. This approach was particularly effective during battles where the Tyranids sought to overrun fortified positions. Additionally, psychic defenses became paramount in countering the influence of the Tyranid hive mind. The presence of librarians among Space Marine chapters became increasingly vital as they harnessed their psychic powers to bolster Imperial troops against the psychological assault of the Tyranids. These powerful psychers employed abilities designed to enhance morale and even disrupt the Tyranids' psychic coordination, providing a tactical edge in critical battles. As the Imperium faced continued incursions, the need for alliances became apparent. While often reluctant to cooperate with other factions, the common threat posed by the Tyranids fostered an environment for collaboration. Temporary alliances were formed between Space Marine chapters, the Astra Militarum, and even elements of the Eldar, who recognized the need to unite against the common enemy. Despite the Imperium's best efforts, the grim reality of Tyranid warfare became increasingly apparent. Entire planets fell to the swarm, their inhabitants consumed without mercy. As hive fleets expanded their reach, the possibility of a unified defense against the Tyranid threat grew increasingly tenuous. The devastation wrought by the Tyranids not only represented a military challenge, but also a profound psychological blow to the Imperium. Worlds once teeming with life were left barren and desolate, a stark reminder of the consequences of their insatiable hunger. The stories of heroic last stands became folklore, tales told to inspire hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Yet with each tale, the weight of despair grew heavier as the Tyranids continued to advance. As the Imperium grappled with the Tyranid threat, a grim acceptance took hold. The battle against the Tyranids was not one that could be won. Instead, it was a battle of survival. The future of the Imperium hung precariously in the balance as the Tyranids continued their relentless march. embodying the very essence of the Warhammer 40k universe, a universe where hope was fleeting and despair loomed large. Chapter 6. Tyranids and Other Races. The Tyranids and Orcs are two of the most relentless forces in the Warhammer 40k universe, and their conflicts often result in apocalyptic battles that reshape entire planets. The Orcs, known for their brutish strength and chaotic tactics, have proven to be one of the few races capable of engaging the Tyranids in sustained combat. This ongoing struggle has become a significant chapter in the history of both factions. The War of Octarius stands out as a defining conflict between the Tyranids and Orcs. When Hive Fleet Leviathan descended upon the Orc-held Octarius sector, it sparked an explosive confrontation between the two races. The Orcs, driven by their love for combat and destruction, rallied their forces to meet the Tyranid swarm head-on. For them, the arrival of the Tyranids was an opportunity to prove their might and indulge in their inherent love for war. The initial encounters were characterized by sheer chaos, as the Orcs, utilizing their signature ramshackle vehicles and crude weaponry, clashed with the Tyranid swarms. What followed was a brutal back-and-forth struggle, with both factions adapting and evolving their tactics in real time. The Orcs, often underestimated for their lack of strategic finesse, showcased remarkable resilience as they learned to harness the sheer numbers of the Tyranids against them. Despite their ferocity, the Orcs soon realized that the Tyranids were not to be taken lightly. The Tyranids' ability to adapt and evolve became a significant hurdle for the Orc forces. For every strategy the Orcs employed, the Tyranids countered with a new approach, rapidly changing their biomorphs to exploit the weaknesses of their adversaries. This led to a deadly arms race of tactics, with both sides constantly seeking an advantage over the other. As the War of Octarius progressed, the Orcs began to develop specialized units and tactics to combat the Tyranids. Orc warbosses led their mobs into battle with a singular focus on destruction. They sought to funnel the Tyranid hordes into kill zones where their superior firepower could be brought to bear. The Orc mentality of Mordaka became their rallying cry as they unleashed an unprecedented volume of fire in an attempt to stem the tide of the swarm. In a bizarre twist of fate, the Tyranids and Orcs found themselves in a stalemate, each unable to gain the upper hand. The Orcs thrived on the chaos of the battle, viewing it as a never-ending opportunity for war and glory, while the Tyranids, driven by their insatiable hunger, continued their relentless onslaught. This strange coexistence turned the Octarius sector into a battleground of epic proportions, drawing in various factions that sought to exploit the chaos for their own ends. However, the war was not without its costs. Entire systems were devastated as the conflict raged on, leaving worlds scarred and lifeless. The once vibrant landscapes of the Octarius sector became a nightmarish reflection of the ongoing struggle, littered with the remnants of both Tyranid and Orc forces. The devastation and bloodshed left in the wake of their clashes served as a grim reminder of the brutality of the Warhammer 40k universe. The relationship between the Tyranids and the Eldar is one of mutual hostility, characterized by psychic warfare and a deep-rooted fear of extinction. The Eldar, a highly advanced and ancient race, view the Tyranids as a catastrophic threat to their very existence. As psychic predators, the Tyranids possess an innate ability to exploit the weaknesses of their opponents, and the Eldar are no exception. The Tyranids' arrival in the galaxy sparked panic among the Eldar. Farseers, the psychic leaders of the Eldar, foresaw the devastation that the Tyranids would bring. The visions of entire craftworlds falling to the swarm prompted the Eldar to mobilize their forces in a desperate attempt to contain the threat. The Eldar recognized that the Tyranids, driven by the hive mind, were not merely a mindless swarm, but a force guided by a singular, malevolent intelligence. One of the most significant encounters between the Eldar and Tyranids occurred during the devastation of craftworld Eundon. As Hive Fleet Kraken descended upon the craftworld, the Eldar engaged in a desperate defense. utilizing their superior agility and advanced technology to fend off the Tyranid onslaught. However, the overwhelming numbers of the Tyranids quickly began to erode their defenses. The Eldar's psychic abilities played a crucial role in their attempts to counter the Tyranids. Farseers employed their foresight to anticipate the Tyranids' movements, allowing them to set traps and ambushes. However, the Tyranids' capacity to adapt to psychic attacks presented a unique challenge. The hive mind exhibited an eerie understanding of the Eldar's tactics, countering their strategies with terrifying efficiency. The Eldar's desperation led to the formation of alliances with other factions as they sought to unite against the Tyranid threat. While often reluctant to collaborate with other races, the Eldar understood that the stakes were too high to ignore. They reached out to the Imperium and even forged uneasy alliances with the Necrons, hoping that together they could stem the tide of the Tyranid swarm. Despite their best efforts, the Eldar could not halt the relentless advance of the Tyranids. Craftworld Eandon fell, marking a significant victory for the Tyranids. The loss resonated throughout the Eldar community, instilling a sense of urgency and fear. The haunting realization that they were facing a species capable of consuming entire worlds fueled their determination to find a way to combat the Tyranids once and for all. The clash between the Tyranids and Eldar represents not just a battle of strength, but a conflict of survival. The Eldar, as ancient custodians of the galaxy, are faced with the grim reality that the Tyranids represent a force that cannot be negotiated with or reasoned with. The relentless pursuit of consumption makes them a unique predator within the Warhammer 40k universe, leading to a bitter and bloody rivalry between two iconic factions. The Necrons, ancient and enigmatic beings, view the Tyranids with a mix of curiosity and disdain. To the Necrons, the Tyranids represent a paradox, an unrelenting swarm that threatens the fabric of the galaxy they once ruled. As a race that has transcended biology, the Necrons see the Tyranids' biological nature as both fascinating and repugnant. The conflict between the Necrons and Tyranids is rooted in their shared existence in the galaxy. The Necrons, having lain dormant for eons, awakened to find their former domains invaded by the Tyranid swarm. The awakening of the Necrons marked a new chapter in the ongoing battle for supremacy in the galaxy, and the Tyranids quickly became a target for their advanced technology. During the fall of the Silent King, the Tyranids sought to expand their presence into the Necron territories. The Necrons, unwilling to allow this biological scourge to encroach upon their domain, responded with ruthless efficiency. Their advanced weaponry, capable of disintegrating Tyranid organisms with ease, showcased the Necrons' ability to combat the swarm. The clash between the Necrons and Tyranids is characterized by high-stakes battles where strategy and technology reign supreme. The Necrons employ their ancient knowledge and weaponry to devastating effect, often finding themselves pitted against the Tyranids in a contest of attrition. As the Tyranids adapted to counter Necron strategies, the Necrons sought to exploit the Tyranids' weaknesses, focusing on targeting their synapse creatures to disrupt the swarm's coordination. However, the Necrons soon discovered that the Tyranids' unique biological properties made them difficult to eliminate entirely. The Tyranids could regenerate and adapt, allowing them to overcome many of the technological advantages held by the Necrons. As the conflict continued, both sides began to understand that their rivalry was less about annihilation and more about asserting dominance over the galaxy. The Necron view of the Tyranids is often colored by their ancient philosophies. To the Necrons, the Tyranids represent the biological cycle of life and death that they sought to transcend. The hive mind, driven by an insatiable hunger, stands in stark contrast to the Necrons' cold, calculated existence. As such, their conflicts often hold deeper philosophical implications, questioning the very nature of life itself. Despite their efforts to eradicate the Tyranids, the Necrons remain cautious of their relentless advance. The possibility of Tyranids assimilating Necron technology is a troubling thought, as it would pose an unprecedented threat to their existence. The ancient beings continue to strategize and prepare for future conflicts, knowing that the Tyranids will not relent in their pursuit of consumption. The conflicts between the Tyranids and other races raise profound philosophical questions within the Warhammer 40k universe. The nature of existence, survival, and the cyclical nature of life and death are themes woven throughout the narratives. As the Tyranids relentlessly consume and adapt, they force other factions to confront their own philosophies and existential crises. The Imperium, steeped in its dogma, is forced to grapple with the implications of a species driven by consumption. The Tyranids embody a primal instinct that contrasts sharply with the Imperium's ideals of order and control. The struggle against the Tyranids becomes not just a battle for survival, but a confrontation with the very essence of what it means to be human. Similarly, the Elders' perspective on the Tyranids reflects their understanding of the galaxy's fragility. The loss of craftworld Ayandon symbolizes the existential threat they face, prompting a re-evaluation of their place in the universe. The Eldar must confront the reality that their once mighty race is at risk of annihilation at the hands of a mindless swarm. For the Necrons, the existence of the Tyranids challenges their understanding of life itself. As beings that have transcended mortality, the Necrons view the Tyranids as a reminder of the biological limitations they sought to escape. The ongoing conflict serves as a reminder of their own past and the cycles of life they have long abandoned. In a universe rife with conflict and despair, the emergence of the Tyranids serves as a catalyst for reflection. Each race is forced to confront the harsh realities of existence, the inevitability of change, and the impact of their actions on the galaxy as a whole. The Tyranids, as an unstoppable force others to question their own survival, purpose, and philosophy in a galaxy where hope is fleeting and despair looms large. The conflicts between the Tyranids and other races in the Warhammer 40k universe reflect the complexity of the galaxy's struggles. The relentless nature of the Tyranids serves as a reminder of the primal instincts that drive all life, forcing other factions to confront their own beliefs and philosophies. As the Tyranids continue to expand their influence, the galaxy finds itself at a crossroads. The emergence of a new primal force challenges the status quo, creating a dynamic interplay between survival, philosophy, and existence itself. The Tyranids, as voracious predators, redefine the nature of warfare in the 41st millennium, forcing every faction to adapt or perish in the face of extinction. Chapter 7: The Tyranid Threat in the 41st Millennium. As the 41st millennium unfolds, the Tyranids represent one of the most catastrophic threats to the galaxy. Their relentless consumption and adaptation have transformed them into a formidable force, capable of decimating entire worlds in a matter of weeks. The scale of the Tyranid threat is unprecedented, leaving a trail of destruction and despair in their wake. The year 999.M41 is particularly notable as the galaxy braces itself for the repercussions of the Great Rift. The emergence of the Rift has disrupted the fabric of reality, leading to the rise of chaos and a general breakdown of order within the Imperium. In this chaos, the Tyranids see an opportunity to strike, expanding their influence across the galaxy as they exploit the vulnerabilities created by the warp storms. Hive fleets, previously isolated, begin to converge towards the Imperium's borders, driven by the hive mind's insatiable hunger. The Imperium, already reeling from the onslaught of chaos, finds itself facing an invasion that it is ill-prepared to combat. The once stalwart forces of the Astra Militarum and Space Marines are stretched thin, struggling to contain the myriad threats emerging from the shadows of the warp. The Tyranid threat is characterized by their ability to evolve and adapt rapidly. Each invasion sees the emergence of new biomorphs and tactics that challenge Imperial defenses. The initial waves of Tyranid organisms are often met with resistance, but as they consume and analyze their foes, they adapt to exploit weaknesses, leading to devastating consequences for the Imperium. The sheer scale of the Tyranid invasions is staggering. Planets once considered bastions of imperial strength fall one by one, consumed by the relentless tide of the swarm. Hive world after hive world succumbs to the insatiable hunger of the Tyranids, leading to catastrophic losses in manpower and resources. Entire systems are devastated, with millions of lives extinguished in the blink of an eye. The Tyranid War becomes a focal point of conflict in the 41st millennium, as the Imperium scrambles to mount a defense against an enemy that seems to be perpetually out of reach. As hive fleets descend upon previously untouched worlds, Imperial commanders find themselves facing impossible choices, whether to engage in pitched battles or to flee in a desperate attempt to preserve their forces for another day. The Tyranids' strategy revolves around overwhelming force and relentless pressure. Initial skirmishes give way to full-scale invasions, with the Tyranids employing a mix of smaller scouting organisms and massive bioengineered monstrosities. The loss of communication and morale among the Imperial forces is exacerbated by the shadow in the warp, a psychic phenomenon that isolates entire systems and crushes resistance before the swarm strikes. As the tide of war turns against them, the Imperium is forced to confront the grim reality of the Tyranid threat. Once thought to be contained or manageable, the swarms are now seen as an existential menace. Each victory against the Tyranids is overshadowed by the knowledge that for every creature slain, countless more are ready to take their place. The unyielding hunger of the Tyranids serves as a constant reminder of their role as the galaxy's ultimate predators. Their need to consume is not merely a biological necessity, it is a driving force that dictates their every action. The concept of the endless hunger permeates Tyranid lore, showcasing a race that exists solely to devour and assimilate. This insatiable desire for biomass makes the Tyranids unique among the galaxy's myriad threats. While other races may seek power, dominion, or vengeance, the Tyranids operate on a fundamental level of survival and consumption. Their hunger is an existential aspect of their identity, shaping their interactions with other races and their approach to warfare. The hunger of the Tyranids is not limited to mere sustenance. It extends to a form of psychic connection through the hive mind. As they consume, they do not simply gain biomass. They absorb knowledge, memories, and genetic material from their prey. This integration of diverse genetic traits allows them to evolve new adaptations, leading to the creation of increasingly formidable organisms tailored to counter the defenses of their enemies. The notion of the endless hunger raises unsettling questions about the nature of life and existence in the Warhammer 40k universe. The Tyranids, as a collective force driven by a singular, insatiable need, force other races to confront the reality of their own survival. In the face of such relentless consumption, the distinctions between life and death, predator and prey, blur into a chilling realization. Every organism exists at the mercy of the swarm. The psychological toll of facing the Tyranid threat cannot be overstated. As Imperial forces engage the Tyranids, they are met with the horrifying spectacle of entire worlds being stripped of life and resources. The fear of extinction becomes palpable, leading to desperation and despair among the defenders of humanity. Stories of brave soldiers and valiant space marines sacrificing themselves for the greater good are overshadowed by the grim reality of a foe that cannot be reasoned with or stopped. The Tyranids' endless hunger challenges the very notion of hope in the Warhammer 40k universe. With every consumed world, the cycle of life appears to grow increasingly fragile. The inevitability of Tyranid invasions looms over the galaxy like a dark cloud, casting doubt on the survival of not just the Imperium, but all intelligent life. The ongoing presence of the Tyranids in the galaxy has far-reaching implications that extend beyond immediate battles and conflicts. As their swarms continue to spread, the very fabric of the galaxy is altered, leading to significant shifts in power dynamics and the potential for unexpected alliances. The Tyranids' expansion forces other factions to re-evaluate their positions. The Imperium, once a dominant force in the galaxy, finds itself on the defensive, struggling to maintain control over its territories. In this time of crisis, historical enemies may find themselves forced into uneasy alliances, united by a common goal: the survival of their species. For example, the Eldar, often reluctant to work with other races, recognize the dire threat posed by the Tyranids. As the hive fleets encroach upon their craft worlds, they seek to form alliances with the Imperium and even the Necrons, viewing the Tyranids as a greater evil that must be contained at all costs. This unprecedented cooperation highlights the desperate nature of their plight, as the galaxy bands together against a foe that threatens to consume them all. The Necrons, too, find themselves drawn into the conflict. Their ancient knowledge and advanced technology offer unique insights into combating the Tyranids. However, their motivations may not align with those of the Imperium or Eldar, as their primary goal remains the re-establishment of their own dominion over the galaxy. The potential for betrayal and shifting alliances adds layers of complexity to the evolving narrative of the Warhammer 40k universe. The future of the galaxy in light of the Tyranid threat is a landscape fraught with uncertainty. As the hive fleets continue to invade and consume, questions arise about the fate of other races. Will they adapt and evolve in response to the Tyranid menace, or will they be swallowed whole by the ravenous swarm? The potential for transformation within the galaxy is vast, as survival instincts kick in and factions scramble to develop new strategies, weapons, and alliances. The implications of the Tyranid presence are not merely limited to warfare. Their existence challenges the fundamental principles of biology, philosophy, and morality within the galaxy. The Tyranids force civilizations to confront their own beliefs, questioning what it means to exist in a universe where consumption and predation reign supreme. The legacy of the Tyranids is one of fear and adaptation. As the galaxy grapples with the implications of their hunger, the story of the Tyranids becomes intertwined with the fates of other races. Their impact will echo throughout the annals of history, leaving behind a galaxy forever altered by the insatiable appetite of the hive mind. The Tyranid threat in the 41st millennium is a defining aspect of the Warhammer 40k universe. Their relentless consumption, adaptability, and impact on the galaxy create a grim reality where survival is uncertain. As they continue to expand, the very nature of existence is challenged, forcing other races to confront their own mortality and the limits of their power. In this dark tapestry, the Tyranids emerge as the ultimate predators, representing a force that transcends the typical motivations of other races. The ongoing struggle against their insatiable hunger serves as a backdrop for the narrative of the galaxy, shaping the destinies of countless civilizations. As we delve deeper into the history and tactics of the Tyranids, we must acknowledge their role as a catalyst for change within the galaxy. Their unyielding advance raises profound questions about survival, identity, and the nature of existence in a universe teetering on the brink of annihilation. Chapter 8: Tyranid Wars and Notable Figures. The Tyranid race, governed by the hive mind, manifests its will through a series of iconic leaders that coordinate their swarms and direct their insatiable hunger. These leaders are known as synapse creatures, and among them, hive tyrants, swarm lords, and brood lords stand out as some of the most formidable entities in the Tyranid arsenal. Hive tyrants serve as the primary commanders of Tyranid hive fleets, acting as the focal point of the hive mind's will. Towering over most other Tyranid organisms, these colossal beings are both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Equipped with a range of biomorphs that enhance their combat capabilities, hive tyrants can adapt to the unique challenges presented by their foes. Each hive tyrant is an embodiment of the Tyranids' adaptability. They can be equipped with monstrous bioweapons, such as Devourers, venom cannons, or bone swords, allowing them to tailor their tactics to overcome specific threats. In battle, they act as rallying points for lesser Tyranid organisms, directing the swarm's movements and ensuring cohesion amidst the chaos of combat. Hive tyrants also possess advanced psychic abilities, allowing them to manipulate the battlefield through psychic powers. This further enhances their role as leaders, providing a tactical advantage as they bolster the morale of nearby Tyranid organisms and inflict psychological terror on their foes. The presence of a hive tyrant can turn the tide of battle, inspiring nearby gaunts to fight harder and instilling fear in the hearts of Imperial defenders. Even more terrifying than the standard hive tyrant, the Swarm Lord is a unique entity that emerges when a hive fleet has suffered significant losses. This legendary warrior is a manifestation of the hive mind's need for survival and adaptation, and it embodies the Tyranid's relentless pursuit of evolution. The Swarm Lord is often depicted as a towering figure with multiple limbs and an array of weapons that reflect its evolutionary prowess. In battle, the Swarm Lord is a force of nature, leading Tyranid charges with unmatched ferocity. Its ability to evolve rapidly means that no two Swarm Lords are the same. Each one represents a culmination of the hive mind's experiences and adaptations from previous battles. With the power to heal and bolster nearby units, the Swarm Lord becomes a linchpin of Tyranid strategy, embodying the tenacity and cunning that define the species. The legendary status of the Swarm Lord is reinforced by its involvement in key conflicts throughout the history of the Tyranids. It often engages in battles against some of the Imperium's most elite forces, including the Space Marines and their Primarchs, showcasing the Tyranids' desire not just to consume, but to prove their superiority. Another crucial aspect of the Tyranid hierarchy is represented by the Broodlords and their lesser kin, the Genestealers. Genestealers serve as the vanguard of Tyranid invasions, infiltrating societies and weakening them from within. These organisms are known for their stealth, speed, and deadly close combat capabilities, making them excellent shock troops. Broodlords, a more advanced evolution of Genestealers, are powerful synapse creatures that guide their lesser kin. They possess enhanced psychic abilities and physical prowess, making them capable of leading Genestealer cults to sow discord and panic in the wake of their invasion. The insidious nature of Genestealer cults, which often masquerade as loyal citizens of a world, allows the Tyranids to destabilize their foes before the full invasion begins. The role of Broodlords and Genestealers in Tyranid tactics cannot be overstated. Their ability to infiltrate, manipulate, and destabilize populations sets the stage for the larger swarms to come, ensuring that by the time the full might of the Tyranid hive fleets descends upon a world, it is already weakened and demoralized. The history of the Tyranids is marked by a series of devastating victories that underscore their role as the galaxy's most terrifying predator. Each victory not only expands their territory, but also enhances their genetic diversity, allowing them to evolve and adapt to the myriad threats they face. One of the most notable battles in Tyranid history is the defense of Macragge, where Hive Fleet Behemoth clashed with the Ultramarines. This battle marked a significant turning point in the ongoing conflict between the Imperium and the Tyranids, showcasing the scale of destruction the swarms could unleash. The Ultramarines, led by Chapter Master Marneus Calgar, initially underestimated the threat posed by the Tyranids. As the swarm descended upon Macragge, the Imperium was caught off guard, struggling to adapt to the sheer volume of Tyranid organisms. The result was a brutal conflict that saw the Ultramarines engaging in desperate defense maneuvers, sacrificing everything to protect their homeworld. Despite their valiant efforts, the Tyranids' overwhelming numbers and adaptability proved too much. Hive Fleet Behemoth laid waste to entire sections of the planet, forcing the Ultramarines into a retreat. This battle served as a grim reminder to the Imperium that the Tyranids were a force to be reckoned with, setting the stage for future engagements and reshaping their tactics in the face of this relentless threat. Another significant victory for the Tyranids came with the fall of Iyanden, where Hive Fleet Kraken decimated the Eldar craft world. This battle highlighted the Tyranids' ability to adapt to different opponents, utilizing their genetic material to develop new strategies and counter the Eldar's agility and psychic prowess. Iyanden, known for its psychic defenses and advanced technology, was initially thought to be a formidable bastion against the Tyranid threat. However, the arrival of Hive Fleet Kraken introduced a new wave of organisms specifically designed to counter the Eldar's strengths. The Eldar fought valiantly, but the sheer number of Tyranid organisms and their evolving tactics proved overwhelming. As the battle raged, the Eldar realized that their defenses were inadequate against the relentless tide of Tyranids. The loss of Iyanden represented not just a defeat, but a devastating blow to the Eldar's psyche, illustrating the Tyranids' ability to adapt and overcome even the most challenging foes. The Siege of Baal is yet another iconic conflict that highlights the Tyranids' relentless nature. In this battle, Hive Fleet Leviathan targeted the homeworld of the Blood Angels, launching an all-out assault on one of the most revered chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. The Siege of Baal not only showcased the scale of the Tyranid threat, but also the desperate lengths to which the Blood Angels would go to protect their legacy. As Hive Fleet Leviathan descended upon Baal, the Blood Angels were forced to rally their forces and engage the swarm in a series of brutal defensive battles. The conflict tested the limits of their endurance and resolve as they fought to protect their homeworld from total annihilation. The battle showcased the Blood Angels' unique tactics, combining their close combat prowess with the heavy firepower of their vehicles. Despite their efforts, the Tyranids' relentless advance and adaptability began to overwhelm the defenders. The Blood Angels faced significant losses as they fought valiantly to hold back the tide. However, the battle also marked a significant moment in their history as they faced the reality of extinction at the hands of a foe they had never fully understood. The Siege of Baal became a defining moment for the Blood Angels, representing both a devastating defeat and a rallying point for their chapter. As they regrouped and adapted their tactics, they began to understand the true nature of the Tyranid threat, ultimately leading to a more comprehensive response against future incursions. The role of broodlords and genestealers in Tyranid invasions cannot be understated. These organisms serve as the vanguard of the Tyranid swarm, infiltrating societies and sowing chaos from within. Their cunning and insidious nature make them a unique asset to the hive mind strategies, allowing for a more nuanced approach to invasion. Genestealer cults represent the Tyranids' most effective method of weakening their foes before the full might of the hive fleets arrives. These cults infiltrate societies, often masquerading as loyal citizens, and spread a belief system that venerates the Tyranids as divine entities. As they gain influence within a population, the genestealers work to undermine the existing authority, creating discord and panic that the Tyranids can exploit. The psychological warfare waged by genestealers is particularly effective. Cult members often perceive themselves as part of a greater destiny, viewing the arrival of the Tyranid swarm as a fulfillment of prophecy. This creates a sense of loyalty among the cultists, who willingly sacrifice themselves for the hive mind, believing they are aiding in a glorious purpose. Once the Tyranid forces arrive, the true scale of the invasion becomes apparent. The genestealer cults often initiate chaos and sabotage from within, leading to a complete collapse of societal defenses. The combination of internal strife and external assault ensures that the Tyranid invasion is not just a straightforward military engagement, but a comprehensive breakdown of order. At the heart of genestealer cults are the broodlords, powerful psychic entities that guide their kin in the service of the hive mind. These creatures possess enhanced strength, psychic powers, and an uncanny ability to manipulate and inspire their followers. In battle, broodlords exemplify the Tyranids' adaptability, often evolving unique traits that allow them to counter the strengths of their enemies. Broodlords act as the linchpin of genestealer cults, leading ambushes and assaults that devastate local defenses. Their psychic abilities enable them to coordinate their forces with precision, ensuring that the cultists strike at the most opportune moments. The psychological warfare they wage further enhances the effectiveness of their ambush tactics, creating an aura of fear and confusion among their foes. In the context of the larger Tyranid invasions, the role of broodlords is crucial. They pave the way for the arrival of the main hive fleets, destabilizing worlds before the full might of the swarm descends. Their ability to adapt and evolve ensures that the Tyranids remain a step ahead of their enemies, perpetuating a cycle of fear and devastation that leaves entire civilizations in ruins. The Tyranid Wars represent a defining aspect of the Warhammer 40k universe, showcasing the relentless hunger and adaptability of a species bent on consuming all in its path. Notable figures such as hive tyrants, swarm lords, brood lords, and genestealers illustrate the complexity and depth of the Tyranid threat, while their victories highlight the scale of devastation they can unleash. Each engagement, from the defense of Macragge to the siege of Baal, serves as a testament to the Tyranids' resilience and cunning. As the galaxy grapples with the implications of their invasions, the legacy of the Tyranids becomes intertwined with the fate of countless civilizations, forcing them to confront the chilling reality of their existence. As we delve deeper into the lore of the Tyranids, we must acknowledge their role as both predators and catalysts for change. The ongoing conflict between the Imperium and the Tyranids continues to shape the narrative of the Warhammer 40k universe, creating a landscape rife with tension, fear, and the ever-present spectre of extinction. Chapter 9. The Tyranids in the wider Warhammer 40k universe. The Tyranids have fundamentally reshaped the Warhammer 40k universe, acting as a force that transcends the traditional boundaries of conflict. Their insatiable hunger for biomass and genetic material has led to profound consequences for many factions, forcing them to rethink their strategies, technologies, and alliances. In the face of the Tyranid threat, the Imperium of Man has had to adapt its strategies and technologies to combat this relentless foe. The experience of facing the Tyranids has led to the development of specialized weaponry, tactics, and formations specifically designed to counter their unique biological characteristics. One of the most notable developments has been the creation of anti-Tyranid weapons. The Adeptus Mechanicus and the Astra Militarum have worked together to design munitions that exploit the Tyranids' biological weaknesses. These include advanced flamer weapons capable of incinerating swathes of lesser organisms and bioplasmas designed to penetrate their tougher armor. In addition to new weapons, the Imperium has also restructured its military formations to respond to the Tyranid swarm. Specialized Tyranid kill teams have been formed within various Space Marine chapters, trained explicitly to engage the Tyranids. These kill teams utilize hit-and-run tactics, employing their mobility and superior training to outmaneuver the bulk of the Tyranid forces. The Tyranid threat has also prompted unusual alliances among factions traditionally at odds with one another. In the face of extinction, former enemies have united to combat the swarming hordes. The most notable of these alliances is the Imperial Coalition, which has seen temporary cooperation between the Space Marines, Astra Militarum, and even the Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition. This coalition, while fraught with distrust and ideological differences, recognizes the common goal of survival against a shared enemy. Tactical cooperation has enabled them to devise joint strategies that maximize their combined strengths. This development has led to numerous successful engagements against Tyranid forces, proving that when faced with a common foe, even the most disparate factions can work together. The Eldar, ancient foes of the Imperium, have also felt the pressure of the Tyranid incursions. Their response has involved a combination of tactical retreats and guerrilla warfare, aiming to exploit the Tyranids' weaknesses while avoiding direct confrontation. The Eldar's psychic abilities and advanced technology allow them to perceive Tyranid movements and adapt their strategies accordingly. Elder Farseers have warned their kin of the coming storms, urging them to fortify their craft worlds and prepare for the inevitable assaults. They understand that the Tyranids pose a unique threat, one that seeks not only to consume but to obliterate entire cultures. This realization has driven the Eldar to forge fleeting alliances with other factions, including the Imperium and even Necron forces, to stave off the looming darkness. As the Warhammer 40k universe continues to expand, the Tyranids remain an ever-present threat, prompting speculation about their future within the galaxy. Will they continue to evolve, adapting to new enemies and environments, or will they face extinction at the hands of the Imperium and other factions? One of the most pressing concerns regarding the Tyranid threat is the potential arrival of new hive fleets. Reports have surfaced from various worlds on the fringes of known space, suggesting the emergence of Tyranid signals indicative of new hive fleets preparing to invade. These fleets, perhaps containing entirely new organisms and adaptations, could prove even more formidable than their predecessors. The Tyranid ability to absorb genetic material and evolve at an alarming rate means that the galaxy may not have seen the last of their adaptations. As new threats emerge, the Tyranids may develop biomorphs specifically designed to counter these challenges, making them a constantly evolving predator in the cosmos. In a galaxy teetering on the brink of chaos, the emergence of new hive fleets could also lead to unexpected alliances among factions. As the Tyranids press forward, the realization that they are a common enemy may prompt old rivals to reconsider their animosities. The emergence of new hive fleets could galvanize cooperation among the Imperium, Eldar, and even Necron forces, leading to a fragile but necessary alliance. However, the potential for such alliances remains uncertain. Historical enmity and mistrust could hinder efforts to unify against the Tyranid threat, leaving factions to face the swarm individually. The choices made in this desperate struggle for survival will have lasting consequences on the future of the galaxy. The philosophical implications of the Tyranid presence in the galaxy remain profound. The cycle of devourment they represent raises questions about existence, survival, and the meaning of life itself. In a universe defined by conflict, the Tyranids serve as a grim reminder of the inevitable entropy that looms over all civilizations. As they consume and adapt, the Tyranids embody the concept of evolution through destruction, challenging the status quo of the Warhammer 40k universe. Their insatiable hunger not only represents a tangible threat, but also acts as a catalyst for change, forcing other factions to confront their own vulnerabilities and reassess their place in the galaxy. The Tyranids' role in the wider Warhammer 40k universe cannot be overstated. Their influence extends beyond mere military engagements. They serve as a catalyst for change, prompting factions to adapt, evolve, and reconsider their place in a galaxy fraught with peril. From their initial invasions to their ongoing conflicts with various races, the Tyranids have woven themselves into the fabric of the lore, leaving an indelible mark on the galaxy. As we contemplate the future of the Tyranid threat, we must acknowledge their insatiable hunger and relentless pursuit of evolution. The Warhammer 40k universe stands at a crossroads, teetering on the brink of chaos, with the Tyranids poised to shape its destiny. In conclusion, the Tyranids serve as one of the most compelling and terrifying elements of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. They are a force of nature, relentless, adaptable, and ever hungry. As we contemplate the nature of the Tyranids and their impact on the galaxy, we are left with a haunting reminder of the fragility of existence and the ever-looming threat of annihilation. As you venture forth in your explorations of this grim, dark universe, remember the lessons learned from the Tyranids. Their hunger is a metaphor for the insatiable nature of conflict and the precarious balance of survival in an unforgiving cosmos. The shadows of the Tyranids stretch far and wide, and their legacy will continue to shape the fate of the galaxy for eons to come. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the history and tactics of the Tyranids here on Tales of the Grim Dark. If you enjoyed this exploration, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth content that delves into the rich lore of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep your blasters ready. The darkness is always hungry.